delighted to see so many people here this afternoon. I know that there's quite a few of you here that just got off the train coming back from Florida. And hey, everybody that attended AFP, I am just delighted that I know you're exhausted. I'm just delighted you've made the effort to come. And plus, it's also Labor Day weekend. I'm sure there's some other places you could be this afternoon. But we have with us Mikkel Claire Nissen, who has written a book that I learned of maybe, close to a year ago, that for probably 20 years now, I have tried to figure out why do we keep on having to fight communism? What is it that is rooted in human nature that we keep on going back to this when it fails every time it's tried? I mean, what is it that perpetuates this? And then I read the first few chapters of Mikkel's book, and I said, oh my gosh, this is the psychological basis. This is the root of the tree of evil here, that he is showing us the tools to fight. And I keep on going around with the Tea Party, and we're concerned, and we look at all these things that are coming down the channels day after day, the Common Core, the
Obamacare.
Yeah, Obamacare. I mean, one thing after another. Benghazi. I mean, the lies continue, and the media coming up for them. Why does this happen? Why? I mean, I don't think there are memos going back and forth with these people every day telling them, oh, well, this is what we're going to buy into. There is some kind of a core basis that in the human nature that this propaganda and psychology is feeding. And we have got to fight the root of the tree. If we go on just pulling off the leaves, we fight Obamacare, we're just yanking the leaves off. The tree is still there, the root's still there. And I feel that Mikkel's work truly gets at the basis. Why collectivism is this focus that these people want to buy into. And there is a difference there. And he's explaining in his book very clearly the psychological basis for why collectivism still continues to feed on us. And I'd like everybody to meet Mikkel. Mikkel, please stand up. And this is Mikkel Nissen, and I am just going to let him say a few words with you, and I would encourage all of you just come up, shake his hand. He can mingle about the room. I know he'll have lots of questions. You'll have questions. His book has not yet been published, and this is very critical. My husband and I, we are supporting him in the publication process, but with the traditional publishing system, what happens is they want to go through all a pre-publicity cycle, and Barnes & Noble and all the other books, big book stores, they're on a cycle where, we've got to have a list to pick from 6 months, 8 months, a year in advance, and then we decide what's going to be in style next year. But so Mikkel at this point has been told by his publisher, we can introduce your book and have a big splash in 2 years.
After the election.
Yeah, in 2 years. We can't wait. We cannot wait 2 years to have this book available for people to read to help understand what we're fighting and why we must fight it. Mikkel can explain to you very clearly where we're going. He looks at the things that are going on in this country and he says, oh my God, they did this in my country, and this is where we are now. This is where we're headed. And Mikkel is at this time considering self-publishing to get his book out there earlier. Now the problem with this, and I hate to ask people for money, but if you would be willing to help Mikkel cover some publishing expenses and so forth, we can get this book out there. And if there's anybody here that's worked in publishing or is willing to offer advice for getting a book self-published and out on the market, particularly to like-minded individuals like ourselves here who are patriots and don't want to see the U.S. becoming a collectivist society like Denmark. Thank you.
You can ask.
I was just going to say about the book and self-publishing. Have you contacted the Glenn Beck organization to find out if they might be interested in assisting?
Best you ask here.
I just recently had somebody suggest that, and they receive just tons of manuscripts. And I think possibly if we had a large Tea Party group that was to forward his manuscript with an endorsement, it might be helpful. But I mean, Glenn Beck, I mean, they get manuscripts, they're buried under them.
Or even get on his TV show
Yeah.
or radio show?
If there's anyone that's willing to help with publicity in that aspect, I mean, we need it.
Okay, half a mile from my house.
Well, I think I kind of wanted to start off with making people understand what it means to come from a socialist country. First of all, the exact feelings that go through me right now, which is basically very strong emotions, which are caused by inferiority complex or severe narcissism. Best said. Personally, I've been fighting narcissism on very high levels for the past 10 years of my life. Today, I live a life where I'm very self-aware, and my whole book is basically based on that fact. But opposed to people who comes from a country like yours that live on encouragement, ours is completely opposite. And therefore, to stand up in front of a crowd is a really, really tough thing. And it's new, and I'll get used to it, and I'll get confidence. But I just kind of wanted to take you through the fact that basically what I wanted to explain on this meeting, or you call it social, is that for you people to understand and fight this left-wing approach, we have to go to the root. And you're not up against an ideology. You are up against a mental disorder which is taking over the world. And that disorder is called NPD, better known as narcissistic personality disorder. Well, what is unique about my work is that I grew up in a country that has accomplished a society completely without a right wing. But they've accomplished this without actual obvious takeover or force like you've seen in Russia and most other, communist or China countries like these. They have accomplished this over 150 years in my country, and it has been accomplished completely democratically. But my country is now so far left-wing that the farthest right-wing, which is still on the left wing, is still farther left-wing than your liberals. And I've actually had the honor of doing some research while I was here. I should say that I'm not a psychologist. I have specialized in narcissistic personality disorder for about 10 years of my life, which should give me some credit. I'm losing it. I lost it for a second here.
How they accomplished it.
I'm sorry?
You were saying how they accomplished it.
Yeah. Well, basically, no. As I said, I had the honor of having, to observe people in this country, and I've had great debates with lots of different people. And of course, the most important thing for me was to observe people on what you refer to as the left wing. To some part, I have to say I kind of disagree to some part. There are a lot of people that vote democratically that are real left-wingers. But I don't look at people from certain opinions anymore. I observe how much narcissism you have. and thereby determine if someone, where they are political scale. And yeah, what I wanted to come across with is that I had in my country, what is so unique is that because we don't have a right wing, and we actually have 8 political parties on the left wing, swinging all the way from as far left as you can get to as far right as you can get on the political left wing. That gave me the option of starting to observe specific behavior in personality, and then through asking where people voted, I could then start seeing specific patterns. And what I started to observe, and this is years back, was the fact that the farther right we got, of course, because there's only one political party, just like here, if you're a Democrat, you don't have the option of voting socialist for the Socialist Party, because this is not a socialist party yet. It is still a center left-wing party. It is, in other words, I think the level you're looking at here is what we refer to in Europe as social liberals, for most. But a lot of these people, because your country is built on endeavor, still allow people to create esteem, which means that people have confidence or are not driven by levels of narcissism that are so high that they can't be moved. So basically what I am saying is that you have not lost the battle yet. You can still change this country. Where, opposed to my country, it is going to take just as many years to help people out of this disorder as it has taken him to get to the point where we are. To anyone here, I know there was at least one person that studied psychology. If anyone knows about narcissism, they would also know that narcissism is unique because it spreads. If someone has schizophrenia, it can genetically be something that comes along with it, but borderline disorders or mania depressive disorders, not necessarily something that just goes on with it, but because narcissism is created through many different factors, but among others, denigration, which is the key to all of this. Therefore, it is something that will go on. The parents have it and will post the same thing on the child, and so forth. It is not a disorder that is just basically inheritable. So, and what you see today, and to most people here, I'm assuming that a lot of people here have been to France, and most people would not disagree that they are extremely arrogant. And arrogance does not occur until we are starting to look at pretty high levels of narcissism. I have, through my book, tried to identify how we distinct. And of course, if you're a psychologist, but I'm not, so I'm not at liberty to diagnose anyone, luckily, but I can at least tell what my opinion is. I look at a phenomenon. A very clever lady once wrote, a lady called Hotchkiss, specialized in narcissistic personality disorder too. And she wrote a phenomenon, or created a phenomenon that you meet in children. In babies, actually, which is, and if you had the honor of having a child, the fact that the baby does not distinct between the mother and the child through the first at least 1.5 years of their childhood. And when narcissism occurs in adult age, a phenomenon occurs that is called bad boundaries. And bad boundaries describes the inability to distinct between self and other. And that means if you're subject to a narcissist, you are only merely a subject. And in other words, you are there to serve their means. Just like the little infant. And that is the occurrence that happens in socialism. And that is where, and this is what drives my my country to this day, and this is the unification, which has nothing to do with unity at all, that runs socialism. But to get back to the, do take me, I'm a bit, as I said, I am a bit nervous, so it's the first time I do this, so if I throw myself all over, I don't know, bear with me.
Will you type question?
I want to say one thing, and I'll let you speak. What was unique about my country, and the reason why, and what I'm in search for here from you people and the world, is that these things be studied. I am saying something, and I know I'm spot on, but you can't win something by just saying, "Oh, that's how it is." You need proof. And I have very, very clear proof in my book if you want to understand it. It is very simple. A 5-year-old child can read my book and understand it. But we know how the left wing works, so coercion and denial, etc., is of course one of the biggest ways to fight this. But what I identified in my country was, because we have the left wing, and I can do specific studies per political party, out of 8, I identified, and I've got a whole chapter in my book where I identify specifically how these political parties, how this narcissism becomes stronger and stronger. The farther left we move. Uniquely, we do have to look at the fact that there is no right wing. So I see the exact works in place of a country that is completely left wing. Opposed to a country like Canada, maybe, where you would probably have a right wing, or you do have them. There are still something called libertarians. In my country, libertarians like I are probably about 30,000 people out of about 5.5 million people. We're basically not there. But uniquely, my country offers the ability to go in and do very unique studies on how narcissism becomes stronger and stronger. And what I identified was that when you reach what we actually call the middle, because of course socialists wanted to invent, which is what you meet in the media here, they wanted to coerce and make people believe that someone like Hitler was a right-winger. And this is something a lot of people undoubtedly...
Right.
Yeah, since World War II, basically, the world has been trying to persuade the world that Hitler, the socialists, National Socialists, were right-wingers, which they were not. Absolutely not. They were collectivists on the right wing of the left wing. But the funny thing about this is actually they teach this in schools. They actually teach in schools in my country that I am a right winger, and I would be an extremist to these people. Same coercion. But the main point is that they actually teach. They have invented a right wing on the left wing to enable them to call people, or refer to people that are further left wing than your liberals, as right wingers. And then, so forth, use the coercion of basically, which is you're a bad guy, you are right wing, you only think about yourself. These are details. But the main point is coercion, and the farther you can push people left, and use the coercion, because then the coercion is involved in this, the farther the left wing can move us left and hold us, or subordinate that part of society. But uniquely, I identified that when you meet the middle of this, and let's start off with the first political party we have in my country, which is the communists. Then we have the socialists, and we have the social democrats, and then we have the national socialists. But they're unique. They're unique because they swing. They might grab some politics all the way from us, right-wingers, and they might grab some politics from, So they're unique, and that is why people in the world can be persuaded that they're right-wingers. Because, okay, they might not want to pay taxes, but they like to control the economy completely. No capitalism at all. So it's a kind of a unique, and I'll get back after a question to try to explain how they can do this. But then when we meet the middle, we meet something called we call the radical socialists, and they actually believe they're right-wingers, and they're persuaded themselves that they are right-wingers. It's quite funny, but I could identify, and it was actually quite funny because you can actually identify a very slight change in the personality of these people, and that was the fact that they actually had the ability to listen to you. They had the ability to sit down and just listen just a little, even though it might not be something that they liked. And that meant I could identify the fact that the arrogance slowly started to take off. Okay, so the levels of narcissism were changing. But yeah, that is basically what my whole book is built on, because when we meet the middle, and we had a good debate, me and Willie today, because some people do refer to me as quite borderline. It's not true. Because I say that anything on that left side is narcissistic personality disorder, definitive. And there is no discussion about it. That is just how it is. You cannot think in that way without having narcissistic personality disorder. I'd like to read something from my book later, and I'll give you some very unique descriptions of how this disorder works. Very, very simple, because it's quite a lot of work, and people have to kind of understand the disorder in order to work with it. But I've got some very simple things I can show, I can read that works for everyone. You had a question?
Well, I did, and I wondered if you clear this up for me, but I, as an American, and I wonder if many of you in the room, my definition growing up of narcissism might be slightly different of the way that you're interpreting for me. And what I see, the way that Americans, liberal Americans, are raising their children is not with a borderline personality disorder like narcissism. It is an ideology. It's a very selfish approach to. It's an ideological difference that they're indoctrinating their children with. It doesn't really, for me, in my definition of narcissism, have to do with the Hitler disorder of narcissism, which obviously was an organic brain issue. Do you understand my question? I feel that the way that American liberals are raising their children is to do within an ideological indoctrination rather than perpetuating a mental disorder. I don't know if I'm right. I'm just saying that's sort of where
I think what you're meeting. I think what you're meeting on your left is the tip of the iceberg. Basically, it is the in my book I write, just to give you an example of what levels we're looking at here. I propose in my book that and that's what I expect, about 35% of all of Europe are driven by narcissistic personality disorder. In my country, I expect the levels are about 2/3. They might be as high as that. In this country, the APA, American Psychiatric Association, expects or has, last results research was done in 2000, and that is under 1%. Under 1%. Not 35 and not 70% like in my country. I don't think that the statistics are completely correct. I think that you're looking at about 5%. But this disorder will spread. And that is what happens. Basically, what I try to do is get people to look away from this. This is not an ideology. Leftism is not an ideology. It is deprived. It is levels of either. I should read the first paragraph of my book, actually. Hold on, give me a second. I'm very, I do try in my work to be quite provocative in what I do, because I think people need to forget about the money part. There is, of course, a strong issue with the money part because it creates the problem itself. But when Americans look at the liberty that you're about to lose, fight hard. You're not about to just lose the fact that you can be yourself or enjoy life and the status of living that you guys have. You're losing the ability to be yourselves. Yeah, but it's not. It's also an internal thing because living in a tribe life. I came here when I was 18 years old after my mom, her whole life, and indoctrinated me with she always used the coercive expression, which was the United Bluff. That's what she called it, the United Bluff.
What does that mean?
It's all hoax, but that is, that is what you want to do if you got to create an illusion that something is worse than what you have. Well, of course, you want to. You would, in this case, call it the bluff or the, United nothing or United just all of it, blah, 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 whatever. And I came over here, and what inspired me to eventually work with what I do was that I met people that I could have a conversation with at the bus stop. Something that never happens in my country. Never. Never.
Why not?
Because they have they suffer from great narcissism, and with that comes anxiety.
Okay, describe narcissism.
That is really
When I think of it as somebody who thinks so highly of themselves that they're the only important thing in the world.
Yeah, I should
Is that
read
the
a
same
couple
as
of
yours?
paragraphs. I should read a couple of paragraphs for you because it might enlighten you to understand narcissism. Was it Annabeth? You had a question at some point, and to answer your question, we can look at it this way. There was a very, very famous woman, and I haven't had the honor of reading her book. She was called Ayn Rand. I haven't read her book on purpose because I wanted to be me in my work. I wanted to be me, not influenced by anyone. What I do is different, it's new, and it's me. I have bought her book, and I am now almost finished with the last parts of my work, and I will read her. But she promoted egoism. She promoted egoism, which was about creating endeavor for yourself, putting yourself first in order to be happy. Therefore, being able to make other people around you happy. Okay? When you ask the last question, when we look at narcissism, narcissism is never just about inward. It is not, I don't want to share my money. It is not, I am going to win this and I want to be me. I want the right to be alone. Leave me be. No, it is, I think you should be like me. And you should be like me and you should do what I think. It is always outward. I mean, we always, a great example is the Disney character, the evil queen in Snow White. Mirror, 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 what is it called? Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? And if it wasn't to answer back that she was the most beautiful, and then she breaks the glass. I don't remember the story, but yeah, but narcissism is always about egocentricity. It is, and when we talk about the levels of narcissism that we talk of in my country, these people don't have the ability to distinguish between self and other anymore. You are a mere extension of themselves. And that is very, very severe psychopathic narcissism. So, for you, and for you that really want to fight this, you kind of have to move away most of the things that that you're used to, and only look at the depriving side that is occurring in your country, and it's going to occur through schools and etc. And that's the whole system, how it works. But it is about depriving people. So eventually, well, I should go back and try to explain how basically, we start off as children, and though it's not completely correct, but children are what we refer to as narcissists. The child has to learn that just because you have something doesn't necessarily mean I have to have a right to it. And all these kind of things that are very, very normal, we learn through life. What then appears, which we've all tried, I've got 2 children, I've got 2 girls, is the teenage. And in this age, basically, so we basically look at the child as a narcissist, and a narcissist is dependent. And therefore, I refer to them in my book as collectivists. A collectivist is what you start with. You're dependent upon your parents through life. What occurs then in your teenage is that rebellion occurs. And the child is then in search of the individual self. This individual self is so important, and this is what you guys encourage. This is what you encourage, and this is what makes America America. But in socialism, you are denigrated. Don't worry, I can do multitasking.
Tell them you're busy.
Basically, what occurs in socialism is that this the individual self, which you people of America allow to exploit, and get out there, this is being deprived. And basically, through this teenage, society slowly implements inferiority complex. At the age of 15 to 18, slowly this becomes pathological narcissism. And then, already then, if you are from the harder and tougher parts of society, you're already looking at very, very severe levels of narcissism. Basically, the whole occurrence and the reason why this happens is because what is happening with your Democrats right now is that you start helping people in places where they then don't get to help themselves anymore. And because the endeavor is destroyed, there is no way of making esteem. If you come from a deprived family, you may break out and seek society out there that might help lifting you. But when this endeavor is then destroyed, there's a unity that is slowly created. That unity will start bringing people down around them. This is narcissism now. And this bubble will become bigger and bigger, and it will climb society. Through years, it takes many years. And when we get to, eventually you get to, very high levels. And what is unique is then, because you're at high levels of narcissism in society, the ones at the bottom have absolutely no chance of getting anywhere. And this causes, basically, this push for the bottom part, basically eventually makes a large part of the society mentally ill. Yeah, what's up?
We have food, and it's hot and getting cold.
Okay. Yeah, it's hard to get.
Well, you're going to read your book?
I'm going to read a couple of paragraphs for you because I think one of the biggest problems with narcissism is that to know narcissistic personality disorder, narcissism in itself is a big thing to So I'm going to work with some things that are very simple that you can work with in the future. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Mikhail. Mikhail's going to be here, and I encourage him to just spend time with each of you and answer questions. And as I said, we have food, it's hot, it's getting cold, and it's in there. So you can, I guess we're having more or less buffet style.
Yeah.
Yes, Dee?
What is the name of it?
Miguel, I wonder if we could please hear the 2 paragraphs from your book.
I'd be happy to read them, and if you want to sit down and, yeah. I do look at myself as someone who's,
Yes.
basically, I'm,
Yes. Yeah, you can get your food and come back in here and sit down and address Miguel. Coming back. That work for you?
yeah. You're a psychologist, so you definitely understand this. Hold on. Hold on. Find the chapter. Oh.
Sorry, you didn't
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
All right.
I'm gonna read the 3 paragraphs. I'm gonna read 3 paragraphs from my book, which are very, very new, and the theories are very, very different. And especially as a psychologist, this is something that I hope might revolutionize the way we look at socialism today. Let me read aloud. Grandiosity is a diagnostic hallmark of pathological narcissism, also known as in psychology as superiority complex, which characterizes a superficial identity of superiority, a defense mechanism that occurs to conceal a person's inferiority complex. Conversely, left-wing collectivist narcissism to some extent disguises superiority complex and derives more or less entirely from inferiority complex. Narcissism on the political left wing, therefore, is very different from autonomous narcissism. This is something that will wake up any psychologist. Okay. In general, assessments of narcissistic personality disorder, NPD, the autonomous narcissist, also known as a megalomaniac and characterized by superiority complex, expects to be recognized as superior without commensurate achievements, and will debase anyone to assure this superiority. The left-wing narcissist achieves these exact identical actions by means of exploiting history's utmost deceptive illusion, which is the notion of absolute social equality, also known as social equilibrium. So rather than turning to superiority complex and expecting to be recognized as superior without commensurate achievements, the left-wing narcissist turns to employ inferiority complex and expects to be treated entirely equal without commensurate achievements, and will debase anyone who by any means ever appears or acts superior to the left-wing's narcissist's extreme inferiority complex, what I choose to refer to as inferioromania. Did that enlighten anything? The problem with this disease or mental illness is that for centuries, as a psychologist, you identify the narcissist through the superiority complex. But because the ideology of socialism does not allow anyone to be superior, the complex is disguised and therefore cannot be identified. Therefore, it's been hiding for years and years and years. And this is what psychology needs to look at. Because basically we cannot fight something that is disguising itself. And that is basically what, what is it, soon 10 years of psychopathology has enabled me to work with. So, there are new thoughts, but it should be very simple to understand. And you're a psychologist, and I'm hoping this makes sense.
Your mother, when she called this the
My mom?
United States
Oh,
of
yeah,
Lost,
yep.
when she didn't know anything at all about the United States.
Oh, of course, she's arrogant, like the rest of them, yeah.
She
of
didn't
course.
know anything, so
Yep.
just what she had been told, and then that.
Well, when you're a socialist,
Right.
yeah, you even try to avoid getting information because that's the whole point of the
So much
ideology.
the same of how so many German people don't believe the Holocaust really happened.
Could you speak a little
Yeah,
louder?
that-
American propaganda,
The Turkish people with the Armenians.
was it true? Same kind of thing. Mass hysteria.
And Mayor Bloomberg. Seriously. You will eat the way I want you to.
Miriam wanted to bring in some stuff. I could work with my country because I'm assuming some people here might have come with one question in mind. How was it that my country became nominated as the happiest in the world?
I have a question.
Yep.
I've heard Oprah Winfrey say that the Danes must be the happiest people in the world because they get everything free. And what we would like to know, everything you said about narcissism, we know. We have a perfect example of it in the White House.
Hello.
It's just everything that you have discussed, so we're well aware of that. But what we would like to know, those of us who are here and are interested, how has it affected your country? And how can we stop it from going on any farther? That's what we're here for today.
You can stop it by proving that leftism is a mental disorder.
How can we get to those people who have the handout mentality?
There is a psychologist in the end of the room here, so I'm assuming that this is where we need to go. We need to go to places where.
How do you stop the Department of Justice from going to states and encouraging people to go out and recruit people to sign up for food stamps? Why? For the vote. That's what they're doing. Now, how do you stop that? How do you stop all of these people who just have their hands out and say, this is my Obama phone? I'm getting free this and free that. What has happened to your country? How do the people feel? You have been doing.
They don't feel anymore.
They don't feel anymore.
No.
That's what we're coming to. How do you stop it? We're fighting a losing battle.
No, we're not. We're not going to lose.
There, of course, what my statement there was quite exaggerated. Yes, narcissists feel. What I was referring to is sociopathy, where you don't feel at all. They are very, very similar, the two disorders, but we have gotten to levels in my country where people that are not necessary for you are not there. I will try to get you a good answer through what we do here, but I can't give it to you right now.
I have heard that the people in Denmark, in order to pay for all of these services, contribute 70% of their income to the government. Is that true?
Some people over 100. That's funny, but
So that they even get free college and what have you. So what has this done to your country? They don't feel anymore? The government just gives them everything? They're just puppets of the government?
Yes.
The
they're
government
puppets of
controls
themselves.
everything? The government controls everything
They're puppets of themselves.
themselves.
Yes.
I mean, I think what he's trying to say.
I had a.
I think what he's trying to say is after generations of this indoctrination, it becomes their way of life and they don't know anything better. Like
Yeah.
our second graders right now, they can't tell you who the first president was.
No,
They
of course
certainly don't know the order of the government, and they'll never know the capitals.
All they know is
All
they're getting
government.
something free.
Exactly.
We
become
need-
a slave to the state. He's speaking from 4 generations
There you
in. So what his perspective is what happens when they grow up. Now all they have left is, a mental disorder telling them that Americans are bad people.
That's
Because we
arrogance.
have a dream of what we are. They no longer even have the dream of that. So I think his perspective is far beyond where we are right now. We can look
Oh,
at
yeah.
them to see what we're going to be in 50 years.
I know, so
or
how do
20
we
years.
stop it? That's my problem.
You will
Well,
stop it by
that's not
proving
his-
things like these. We need strong tools. I've got two dreams. I've got two dreams to accomplish. one is to accomplish to make a documentary about what I do, which is very simple because unfortunately we live in a world where not many people read. I can have written the best work in the world, it won't matter.
Can you put it on like a Facebook documentary like we see?
That's what I'm hoping, yeah, but that would be YouTube. YouTube.
Yeah.
I'm hoping, but I need funds for these kind of things. There is, of course, the tools here is to start to look at this ideology in a different way. No one has ever really looked at this ideology from a psychological. Of course, people have talked about narcissism, but not in these levels. Not on these levels. And I'm hoping someone better than I will take my work into their hands, and they will eventually, if it's close enough. And I mean, just like they use coercion on the left wing, well, our coercion would of course be proving that what they're doing is dead wrong.
Have you ever made contact with Glenn Beck personally?
Miriam is trying, and I mean, I'd love to hear anyone.
Me
Miriam
too,
can-
because, I mean,
Yeah.
you need to, because I think he would be very open.
Oh,
And like I stressed, I mean, Glenn Beck gets just, it's a blizzard of manuscripts that he receives.
Oh, I say call him on the phone.
Yeah.
I say email him, Twitter him.
But,
Twitter, that's what they all pay
Yeah, I mean,
attention to.
support from us individually, that we want to see his work supported through Glenn Beck will also help.
You can go on his site and Twitter.
And this also to answer her, I mean, her question, this is why it's so urgent to get his manuscript, his book, into print where people can read it. Instead of just out there, I mean, with a publisher telling him, oh, we can have it out there in Barnes & Noble in 2 years.
I haven't spoken to her for years.
She loves you no matter what.
Oh yeah, I know, but it's a long word. She's mentally ill. So.
Yeah. But let's give everybody, Mikhail, let's give everybody a break. and
Yes,
let them,
there was a lady down there that had her hand up. I'd like to, you know,
Yeah, well, let's let them get the food and we can start again.
I want her question
Just
first.
two brief questions.
Can you-
When we traveled over there, when we traveled in the Scandinavian countries, in Sweden, we had a long talk with our guide. And my husband asked point blank about socialism and the upper echelon of the society which makes the most money, the professionals. Do they live in Sweden?
Oh, they
And we
move.
were told no,
Yeah, no, they move away.
they move away.
Of course,
Is that true in Denmark?
of course. Yeah, we barely have any. See, that is exactly the problem that occurs. That is that, you know, Karl Marx once said that the problem, I'm not going to describe his work in the way that he did, but he described that the root to and the wrong with capitalism was that it was greed. You know, it was about the greed and the man who wanted more and more and more. And this same exact thing, which he's trying to propose, is happening on the left wing. It's just called entitlement. And entitlement is not, see, everyone knows this word, but most of you might not know that it's actually a narcissistic tendency. And it's not a tendency that occurs unless you have really, really high levels of narcissism. But the problem with this is that this entitlement, you know, it never stops. The demand will grow and grow and grow, and it will never stop. Regardless of what they tell you, they start off with Obamacare. And then it becomes this, and you know, eventually in my country, you are looking... Can I say that, breast implants? Mm-hmm. You can actually get, and I'm sorry, I don't hope anyone get offended here, but you can actually get free breast implants in my country now. On the bill, beside me. We're talking holidays. We're talking free holidays. We're talking the demand never stops. And there's no money for it because why? Well, who wants to pay 68-70%? And that's just high man's tax. Oh, we've got 180% on a car. So a Honda, I use an example in my book, which is very simple because it's the most sold car in America, which is a Honda Accord. It's about $22,000 in America. It's about $50,000 in my country.
Because of the tax.
50 grand, yes.
You have to pay import tax on top of that?
You pay import tax, you pay, and then there's a 25% sales tax on top of these things, which of course, they're talking about how the weak people should be helped here, and who is this artist on, etc. I mean, yeah. I think I kind of covered this. We can go on, and I'd love to go on after, but Miriam wanted to bring in some food, so
Yeah, just let's let
give everyone a chance to
Okay. Is everybody, thank you. Is everybody, no one's dying of starvation in here anymore? No. Okay. Well, I'll let Mikkel come back up and take some questions, if you'd like that. Mikkel? All right, Ken's got his hand up already. Ken was the one with the hand up first.
but maybe you can do the...
Okay.
Right. Since you portray this as an illness, obviously there needs to be a diagnostic aspect of this thing. What are the metrics around the diagnosis of this?
The diagnosis is five tendencies. If you can prove that someone suffers greatly from 5 different out of 9 narcissistic tendencies, you can then call them a narcissist. Yes, and that defines that you have NPD, narcissistic personality disorder.
What are the 5?
What are they? It's
They're not. Yeah, well, there are 9 disorders within narcissistic personality disorder. One is grandiosity, which I mentioned earlier. Hold on. I might have to define the traits of the actual tendencies, and it's not like they're just stuck. Because even within these tendencies, I've developed new aspects of trying to explain how they work. Hold on, just give me 1 second. Yeah, well, we start off with what you refer to as, I think many of you would probably refer to this as Hollywood syndrome. Grandiosity, or a grandiose sense of self-importance. I could give you some examples, which is exaggerates achievements, skills, and talents to the point of lying. What's really fun is if many of you men recall when you were young, in your teens, and that many of us kind of had these symptoms of I had 50 girlfriends, or this kind of thing. We've all done these kind of things in our teens, but in a normal person, these things appear as soon as we reach adulthood. So just to give an example of that, it's a very naturally occurring thing. It's just not supposed to continue to adulthood, The second one is preoccupation with success. I usually refer to this one as the trait within it, which is irrational ideals of succeeding a perfect society with equal opportunities, entirely equal treatment, and poverty has been eliminated. But these people don't understand that this is impossible. It is not impossible, and I think many people here get the question answered quite quickly, because who pays for it? Well, the guy who's not there very shortly after, because as soon as you raise the taxes, everyone says, maybe I should go somewhere else. And then the money is simply not there anymore. And what happens is that this is, the state starts borrowing money. This is what you look at as your national debt right now, at least among others. I don't know how exactly where the figures come from, but I'm assuming that a large percentage of it comes from social benefits. The third one is believes that he or she is special. This tendency is often used by the narcissist. Well, imagine if you as an individual wouldn't want the truth. You could then invent that you are special and that someone else cannot understand you. That is a good facade, to oppose any threat towards your individual self. I mean, inferior self, that's what I meant. Requires excessive admiration. That means you need to be adulated, you need attention constantly, always pry in other people's business kind of thing. Has a very strong sense of entitlement, which is definitely I don't have to specify that one. And then explorative of others, which should be quite obvious. The exploitation that, basically what happens in the bottom of society is the exploitation or the easiest solution. I can't succeed, so someone else should pay for me, kind of thing. Envy, the ideology in itself is built on nothing but envy. You have something and you have more, or etc. I'm envious of you, so you should pay more, or etc. Rather than the libertarian kind of mindset or the right-wing mindset, which is, I personally stand for that the more money you make, well, the less you should pay in tax, because you benefit most, regardless of how much money you make. You're still the one benefiting the highest amount of money, not in taxes, but tax percentage, but you benefit most. So I think we should create societies that encourage, or what do you call it? Reward, exactly. Reward for the achievement itself, and hopefully more people would try to climb the ladder. Then there's arrogance. Some of the traits of arrogance is shows regular attitudes, haughty behavior. That's definitely your president. He is very, very haughty. There are many pictures with his head held very high, and this is one of the first things that you see. I have a good example of something that occurs in arrogance. It's called magical thinking. In psychology, it's referred to as magical thinking. Most of you would probably refer to it as creating solutions. And I do remember, I don't know which campaign it was from, but I know that the question was at some point while he was campaigning, he was asked what his thoughts were in regards to the fact that it was proven that hiring, or increasing taxes in America had proven already to bring less money into the government. And his answer was, it's not fair. and that is magical thinking. That is magical thinking, and that, those are some of the symptoms. I haven't used the time on trying to analyze your president that much. He's already been diagnosed as a narcissist, so I don't need to worry about it. But if you guys search and if you're interested in these kind of things, there's a very famous guy called Sam Vaknin, and he is from Israel. He's one of my big idols. The man suffers from 9 tendencies himself, so he is definitely one of them. And he has diagnosed Obama as a narcissist. So, and what I'm hearing is that until now, only 2 presidents in America has been, suspected of suffering from disorder, and the other one was Nixon.
Oh, yeah.
The last tendency, those are all 9. I could read something which I end the book with, and of course, some of the things that I work with, you need every aspect of what I'm trying to explain in order to because I come quite full on with some of the stuff that I do. I wanted to, the lady over here wanted to understand what I believe is the key to fighting socialism for real. And I truly believe it is to teach the disorder, or basically teach our children about their subjective self in schools. We teach children math, we teach them anything but emotions. And the bullying that we meet in school is narcissism. So was society to start working out theories and ways of implementing psychology, of course at levels where you can teach, you got to do thorough investigation in order to figure out what you can teach at certain ages. But I do believe that psychology is the key. And I do believe that teaching our children the psychology, basically through self-analysis at a very early age, would definitely benefit the cause. Any other questions?
I guess you probably answered most of it, but we were talking about how does it really start? How do you see it?
Yeah.
Is it strictly education? What's the process that gets us to where we are today, which I think we're probably more than 5%.
Hold on.
The narcissist believes he's as good as God, therefore he replaces God. So one of the first things you find out is like 50 years ago, we got rid of God in the schools. And as soon as you did that, you were teaching a whole new brand of concepts and thoughts that would lead you to more readily become a narcissist yourself, or the children would become it. Then of course you step into the areas of women's rights or men's rights or patients' rights or all these other kinds of things that have never been in our culture specified in the Constitution as an active position that federal government should take. But on the other hand, federal government has in fact stepped in with our Supreme Court, and now we've killed 50 million babies. That's all population that would have helped this country continue to have a population growth instead of a decrease in population. Would then appear to allow people to have more opportunities because there would be more jobs, more things would have to be produced. So we've just gone down the very same set of steps that Denmark did, starting about 50 years or maybe even more, 75 years ago.
I think the root of what you're trying to aim at is there's one thing that is kind of missing, which is capitalism. With capitalism, we should be able to grow, we should be able to have more population and grow, but you have bureaucracy, and bureaucracy is what is exactly the problem that occurs, the involvement and the cause of all these little things that destroy the ability to create a stronger society that gets richer and richer. I mean, I had to answer your question, and I have a paragraph in my book where I explain the emotional process of what goes on. But what I have enlightened in doing today is that originally, when I started traveling, I saw, well, people had me believe that there was a syndrome in my country which was called the Jente Law. And this syndrome was very well defined, and in the end I realized that this was not a syndrome that was unique to my own. This syndrome was referred to as malignant narcissism. Which is a syndrome that occurs out of two tendencies in narcissism. One is envy and the other one is arrogance. When you meet scornfulness, that is what you refer to as malignant narcissism for one. But what I didn't realize when I started traveling, because I moved to Australia, I've lived in Australia 6 years, was that a syndrome had occurred that was exactly identical, which was called the tall puppy syndrome. And if you ask any Canadian person, they most likely know it very well. Because it's a syndrome of basically what starts it all is malignant narcissism. And so I'm going to read this text out of the second chapter of my book, which basically starts the process, and it should answer some of your questions. It states, tall puppy syndrome, belittlement as part of the process of building one's identity, takes place in all societies around the world, especially in the school system among the youth. All of us, almost all of us, have been bullied in school or have bullied others. Even in societies with adults who are largely independent and liberated mentally, all people are collectivists through their dependent childhood and teen years. The major difference is that dependency lessons as liberated society endorse the emerging individual self through encouraging individuality and independence by way of supporting confident self-encouragement, self-assurance, and benign envy. Benign envy is very important. All of which raise the level of self-esteem. Once dependability decreases, the belittlement wears off with age. Yet, in collectivism, to accomplish, protect, and maintain social equilibrium, the inferiority complexes and schoolyard bullying gradually intensifies into pathological narcissism in the teenage years and ultimately into manipulism, inadvertently calculated adult bullying, malignant narcissism continues all through life. The process now, I'm then going to describe the process now. In the last century, the tall puppy syndrome, though it would best reflect its appalling behavior if it were in fact named tall puppy syndrome, as in a puppy of a little dog. Syndrome, in relation to the way that a small dog will show its power through loud barking or hostile actions towards larger dogs it feels inferior to, has simply been described as bullying, where the weakest, driven by low self-esteem, pick on the strongest. So now comes the process, and now your answer is here. In the case of democratic socialism, instead of the usual one or few individuals being weakened, the whole citizenry is slowly shaped into oppressed society. Accordingly, when the weakest part of society are given a promise of social equality, this sets in motion the syndrome of manipulism. I'll tell you what manipulism is later. Sorry. Through the process of learned helplessness, government bribery that weakens them further. Their endeavor is corrupted. Consequently, basic human survival instinct slowly shapes an envious, oppressive organism. In other words, the schoolyard bullying, the usual madness shared by two, referred to in psychology as a folie à deux, is slowly nationalized. The organism at this point, at potent collective unity, again always with its origin in the weaker parts of society, and driven by inferiority, is ready to exploit others for personal gain. All of this is the result of severe pathological narcissism, which stems from feelings of excessive self-importance and magical thinking that generate the illusion of extreme moral superiority. Unification by fantasies of the perfect utopian society without any poverty, where all people have equal opportunities and are treated entirely equal. Justification for excessive entitlement and expectations of unreasonable favorable treatment without mandatory achievement. Ignorance, denial, omniscience, magical thinking, and the lack of ability to take criticism further results in arrogance. Additionally, lack of ambition and the urge to feel equal generate envy. To mentally denigrate and socially assimilate becomes its common goal. What takes over is learned helplessness, human nature's basic survival instinct. The mentality is one of personality mind control, of malignant narcissistic coercion, in an attempt to weaken and disable in society's natural source of questioning and criticism. To achieve, protect, and maintain collective accomplishments, the mass mentality is slowly shaped and gradually accepted into all levels of society as common behavior. That's what you're reading. Originally, I wanted to read a text about how the mind of a true left-winger works, and how they themselves can manipulate their own self in order to believing that we are the bad guys, basically. This is not my iPad, by the way, so it's not my computer, so it's kind of new. Yeah?
You need Pope Ronnie. I'm so proud of you for finding that quote.
Which one?
The quote from Ronald Reagan you've included.
Oh, of course I am. Socialism only works in two places: heaven, where they don't have it, where they don't need it, and hell, where they already have it.
Ronald Reagan.
Oh no, he was a good guy.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. I can find mine. Oh, there you go. I lost this. I can't find my own book. Are there any more questions? It seems that Miriam is saying that it's kind of over. I mean, I'd be happy to answer questions for anyone who might want to stay. Yeah, sure. I'll take it.
It seems to me that type of personality, this narcissistic personality, would they not be more inclined to commit crimes, like personal crimes, like theft, stealing property because I deserve it and you don't?
You actually meet that in a disorder which is very close to it, which is called antisocial personality disorder, or the higher level of it, which is sociopathy. Narcissists are usually very cunning. They're good at what they do. They con people. They don't usually do crimes that are obvious. That's it's not. It's well, of course they're there, but when you talk about the crime itself, as in criminals, what you mean in the justice system here is antisocial personality disorder. The narcissist is a con man. He's the one who goes into you and tries to get you to invest $100,000 in something that doesn't exist. That is the narcissist. Does it answer your question? Okay.
I was going to say, that sounds like somebody managed to con the head of the IRS into investigating Tea Party groups before and he knew nothing about it.
Right. Oh, okay.
Yeah, you probably were familiar with that.
No, I haven't heard about the case.
Yeah, the IRS.
I would like to finish this with a couple of statistics because this is quite important to prove what is happening and why it's happening, and that I'm not just telling you something for the fun of it. I use only a few sources in my book because most of my book is not my words, but I use psychology to explain why I say what I say. Therefore, I don't need much to explain it. It is explained because I'm not saying it. Psychology is. But I do actually use 3 statistics from the WHO, World Health Organization, and they're all suicide rates. And one statistic was the American, and the other one was the British, and the third one is my own from Denmark. And I took every statistic and I looked at them and I did a thorough statistic from 50 years. And the average suicide rate per 100,000 in America over the last 50 years has been 10.7. In Britain, it has been 8.7. In my country, it has been 20.8. What is unique here, though? What is unique? Oh, no, this is on the bottom of it. What is unique here is that you find that the American statistic and the British statistic has been absolutely stable. Basically one line going through the last 50 years. If you look at the Danish statistic, when I was a kid, in the early 80s, you saw the statistic reaching a level of 32. And uniquely, it was exactly at the point when the really big unions were fighting and all this democratic socialism demand was at its absolute peak. What happened over the next years when these people then got what they wanted was that it declined to about 5 until about 1990, when the drug called antidepressant medication was basically seeing it came out. And uniquely from there, you have seen a huge decline in my country, but a massive use. Now 11% of all adults in my country are on antidepressant medication. 11%. But we now today have a suicide rate which is about 12, I don't remember if it's 11.9 or 12, around there. It's still higher than the American, but what is unique about this, and the way I try to explain that you can see the coercion occur in America, is that you have had an absolutely stable statistic in both America and in Great Britain, both very right-wing countries. And in the last, basically since the Democrats and since the Labour Party has started to have their grip in society in both of these countries, you have seen antidepressant medication go up to extreme levels. So rather than a society like mine, where you didn't have antidepressant medication to kind of subordinate or hide away the fact that socialism is brought forth via malignant narcissism, I could say denigration. Well, that is basically, how it works. You are seeing extreme levels of antidepressant usage in America at this moment, because they're about the same as my own country. But you don't see statistics of suicide. They're still the same. And it's all because of the denigration that you meet from the bottom part of society, and it's just gonna go and go and go and go. So yeah, sure.
Do these same rules apply to the Muslim world?
Which rule?
Do these rules you're describing also apply to the Muslim world?
The narcissistic.
I don't know. I only use my time on socialism.
Are you saying are the Muslims socialists?
No, what I'm asking is, do these symptoms also show themselves in the Muslim world?
Well, I think I haven't studied anything in regards to that, so I can't.
It is a socialist. It's fundamentally a socialist world, the Muslim world.
Yeah.
Islam.
Yeah. Well, my soul, I work with democratic socialism.
Okay.
That is, so I wouldn't be able to tell you. Honestly, I find people that are Muslims in my country, they're actually more right-wing than most Danes are. If they give you anything. But we all have to look at the fact that we in life all search for one single source, and that's contentment. So wherever we find it, if we find it in our religion, in the community of our religion, or as socialists that find it in social benefits, employment benefits, and feel safe that way, or in me where I went through psychology to find myself and work with myself harder. It is all about this. All comes down to one single source, and that is contentment. So, but I wouldn't be able to tell you anything. I haven't been in those cultures.
I would think it would be really narcissistic because it's their way or no way.
Yeah.
With the Muslim.
Oh, that is very grandiose, yes. That is a grandiose symptom. It definitely is. I promised you guys to, and I know I was going to end this, but I did promise that I wanted to, and this is something that's going to be quite obvious. I started working with two phenomenons within the left wing. And I developed two theories out of the narcissistic tendency of grandiosity and self-importance. And one, well, they kind of came out of excessive self-righteousness. And one, I basically baptized superior sense of moral superiority. And then, so what you meet on the left wing is moral superiority, and you meet national superiority. And the far left wing uses this moral superiority to coerce and basically project at anyone else. We are the bad ones who doesn't want to, we only think about ourselves, etc. And this grandiose mindset is basically what runs the left wing. Uniquely, to kind of open the idea behind this, it's best to explain the national superiority, because that is what Hitler used. But what is unique about moral superiority is that it only works for the ones that are farthest left. It doesn't matter where you are in political scale. If society is more right-wing or center or whatever, you can kind of project with this because the whole projection part is built on saying that they're the ones that are ego. They're the ego. We're the ones who care for others, etc. But what is unique about the national superiority feeling is that they can then grab politics from almost anywhere, opposed to someone who is morally, or at least feels morally superior, because they cannot grab logical politics on the right wing, etc. I just wanted to bring that one up because I brought it up earlier to try to, I mean, it might all seem very confusing, but as I spoke to, I am hoping. I don't know what is exactly. I mean, we're right now sitting in a phase where I have to make pretty strong decisions on what is going to happen with my book. I have been offered a contract, and I am not likely to take it. It seems that I might be stuck in something where I have no control. But I've always wanted to give away my book. Originally, I wanted to give away my book for free. But unfortunately, most people, when you give something away for free, are under the impression that if it's free, it's not worth reading. So that thought was quite quickly killed. And I mean, I have spent 7 years on this, and I mean, most people would then agree, most likely, that I should eventually benefit a little bit from it. From that, I would like, and I'm going to talk to whoever is in charge of these things. I mean, so most of you might be offered to get the book for free at some point, but it is not out yet. The complete work is not out yet. But I think what we're going to do is actually send you a unique link, so everyone here can actually download the book for free and read it.
Thank you, everybody, and everyone here has signed, and most of you have given us email addresses, and we will use that to give you the link to his website and the opportunity to read the book. And I would just like to make a couple of short announcements here about upcoming events of concern. Tuesday the 3rd, there will be a town hall at the Pinehurst Village, what do they call it? Village Hall. and Renee Elmers will be there. And
Tuesday?
That's the 3rd. This Tuesday, the 3rd. At 5:30 p.m. Let's see, following, so that's the 3rd. Then on the 6th at 7 p.m. we have Fire Day, and that is also going to be at the Village Town Hall, and this is going to be a town hall, and D Park has arranged that.
And we're co-sponsored by Marquis Citizens.
Co-sponsored by.
If you go Tuesday night, bring your questions, your concerns, and a little bit of a rave for Friday night. And we're going to be writing postcards to our senators and representatives, and probably doing in rant form, writing it down, and we will have petitions and resolutions, because when they go back to work, so to speak, on the 9th in Washington, we need to be there, not in person, but in spirit. Our spirits are burning up, aren't they? And so we need to let our Congress people know how we feel about the issues. Thank you.
And then, of course, Monday the 9th, 5:30 to 7:30, we have our monthly members meeting, and we have had a good share of RSVPs from our local candidates here in Moore County that'll be running for everything from the mayor of Aberdeen to the town council of Whispering Pines. And I would urge you to come meet your potential candidates. Unfortunately, also on Monday the 9th, the Reverend Barber has decided to bring his traveling Moral Monday circus to Southern Pines. They couldn't find the courthouse in Carthage, so they decided to come to Southern Pines instead. And they plan on being there at from 5 to 8 p.m. That, I'm certain, is something we're all going to be discussing at length between now and then. Then also on the 14th, there will be a voter integrity boot camp. And this is, as Dee stated, all this information is on the Moore Key Citizens website. And I just want to thank you all so much for coming out this afternoon. I hope you found